aware and knowing of the phrase that you have to love yourself first before you can actually find love. I, for one, heard it and thought it was BS, but now I can tell you, I think it truly does exist. And my guest today on this episode and I are going to talk exactly about that, how loving yourself first is actually the way to find true love. Now, if you already are married or with somebody for a long period of time, note this can actually still work for you. So stay tuned to this episode. I'm Leslie Urbis. I'm a registered dietitian and a personal trainer. And today we are going to talk about all these amazing things as we combat the lies we were told about love. Because as you know, I am a selfless overachiever in recovery. And one of those selfless things I've had to overachieve on doing was having all of my love set up for somebody else instead of for myself. So today, my guest and I, Caroline, are going to talk about this. So welcome to the show. Tell me about yourself.
Hi there. So I'm Caroline Smith-McLean. I'm a hypnotherapist and mindset coach. I'm also a certified breathwork facilitator. And yeah, I help women call in the love that they desire and deserve, because what a lot of people don't realize is how we unconsciously communicate all the time. So we always see things through the eyes of what we believe about ourselves. So we're always wearing these lenses. And it's just, if you're not loving yourself, you're going to see everything and everyone through that lens and always be getting evidence of what you believe, basically.
Totally. I completely agree to this. I was telling you before this that there's been some things in my marriage that I brought up recently, and my husband's like, what? Like, this never bothered you before. Why is this bothering you now? And it's because I'm coming into self-love and self-worth in different ways now than I ever have, and really making it my own. So I'd love for you to start, just kind of share how you stepped into this path and how you kind of do a little bit of what you do. Tell us more about how you got here.
Yeah. So I met my ex-husband when I was only 17 years old. And probably at that point, there was kind of a running joke between my friends that I wasn't able to say no to men. And it wasn't because I was promiscuous, it was because I saw saying yes to men as kind of validation. Okay. If I was saying yes to them and they wanted to be with me in any kind of way, for me, I thought that was validating. I thought, yes, I'm wanted by somebody. However, we know that that's really not the case. A lot of them were only after one thing. So I met my ex-husband and we were actually together for 17 years. Now, that 17 years was really turbulent. I've got two boys through that relationship, so I'm still utterly grateful for it. But I was not treated well. I was not treated how I now know I deserve to be treated. But I can't fully blame him because, like I say, I had no expectations. I didn't really love or believe in myself. So even if he had shown me any of these things, I probably wouldn't have been able to accept it because I didn't feel deserving of it. And so we were just trapped in this catch 22 situation, probably a little bit of trauma bonding going on. Both of us were quite reliant on each other. And actually, even that drama kind of excitement and dip became a bit of something that we both needed from that relationship. I actually ended up having a mental breakdown in about 2011, I think it was. I had a full-blown mental breakdown. I used to see my kids falling out of the window, like used to see awful things happening. And I tried various forms of therapy, which didn't help. And then hypnotherapy was the thing that really, really helped me. Okay. I couldn't really explain what was going on for me. I didn't realize that I'd been suffering with anxiety for years leading up to that point. But hypnotherapy, I was able to get the release that I needed and to feel better, but without having to go over and over and over everything that had ever happened in my life. And that was kind of the start of my journey of kind of beginning to love myself as well. I realized that I needed to look after me first and foremost, because having had that mental breakdown, I didn't want to change my son's nappies. I didn't want to cook their dinner. I really didn't want to do anything other than sleep. I didn't even want to live, but I also didn't want to do anything to end my life either. It was a numbing. And from that point onwards, I began to work on myself a little bit. And then I think it was in 2017, I actually retrained as a hypnotherapist, because I'd seen what a big difference it could make to my life. And that was where I began to just notice these unconscious thoughts and behaviors that had been continuing. The whole thing of, it's not just confidence, it's not just how we walk into a room, it's actually how we speak to ourselves minute by minute, day to day. I was saying really awful things to myself up until I did that retraining, and then I started to actually talk to myself better, beginning to see that I deserved more than the relationship that I was in. But unfortunately, at that point, he was quite manipulative. So when I said I was going to leave, he would make threats and basically want to keep me there. So that went on for a couple of years. And in 2019, we finally broke up, and the sense of relief was huge. And actually, I even remember my son telling me about a year after that he was really glad that we'd separated, because we were both so much happier. So it goes to show how even when you think you're covering stuff up from kids, actually they can take in so much. And I think that was the point where I did a bit of surface level love on myself. Okay, a bit of a, like we have a glow up. I lost a bit of weight, I got my hair done, buying nice clothes for myself, thinking it was self-love. And I had this glow up, and I got into a relationship with somebody who was actually very safe, very secure, very loving. And it was great for about 3 months. And after 3 months, we'd both been playing our best parts, as we do. And then all of my insecurities came up. And I just found myself kind of back to this whole, well, he's going to leave me. This isn't how I get treated in relationships. He's going to leave me. Even really simple things like he'd have his hand on my leg and he'd take his hand off my leg. And I would be like, oh, knew he doesn't love me. Like really ridiculous, looking back at it, stuff that would be coming up now. But at the time, it was so relevant. It's, all of these triggers that were coming up from not just my past relationship, but even things during childhood, which, nobody wanted me to feel that way, but certain things that were said or done had made me feel that way, that I wasn't really good enough to be loved, essentially. So yeah, I eventually, unfortunately, sabotaged that relationship. And then we were separated for 6 months. And that was where I just had this massive epiphany moment of, I'd caused that breakup through the way that I was thinking, the way that I was behaving. No amount of reassurance was ever going to make me feel safe and secure, because I just didn't believe it in myself. So yeah, from that point onwards, I've really gone on this journey of making sure that I am treating myself, loving myself, talking to myself like I would like anybody else to treat me. Because I say to people, we can leave as many toxic relationships as you like, but if you still stay in a toxic relationship with yourself, you haven't really gone anywhere.
I totally, completely agree with that thought process, but I don't think many people know that they're in a toxic relationship with themselves. And I think that's the key, is that people don't know that. I've recently in the past, like I do a lot with self-love, and I teach stuff with self-love and self-worth. And, I think we all hit new awarenesses at new points. And I recently stepped into the awareness that everything that I've been basing my self-worth on throughout my entire life came from basically the 4 things that I was taught when I was little mattered the most. But little by little, working on myself and finding out who I truly am, I'm like, I don't actually care about those things. So I just have to shift my self-worth now. And that comes internally, right? So it has to come with how I'm measuring myself. So I'm curious, if I'm interested, if I'm there, what would be signs or symptoms that I'd be having if I'm in a toxic love relationship with myself?
So I always say to people, look for those initial reactions to things. So it's the whole, if somebody, I don't know, does leave you, well, I knew this was going to happen. That's kind of that you're already anticipating that they're going to leave you, which in turn, like I say, because of this unconscious communication, quite often will end up with them leaving you, because there's this imbalance. There's no amount of reassurance they can give you to make you feel like you're safe in that relationship. So essentially it pushes them away. Another way that you might kind of notice that you're in a toxic relationship with yourself is unhealthy patterns, as in not doing the basic self-care things to look after yourself, not getting enough sleep, not eating the right foods to nourish your body, not hanging out with the right people, people that are also quite toxic, quite bitchy, like always moaning and bringing other people down. Again, we're going to pick up on all of these things. So having a really supportive network is really important as well.
Totally agreed. I mean, if you are hanging out with people that are complainers,
Yeah,
you're probably waiting in line to complain with them, right? People that don't like complaining and don't often want it, don't hang around with those people, right? So I guess my next question really is, what if, let's say I'm identifying with this, or I know that I need to work on self-love, where should I start?
well, so I actually don't call myself a relationship coach or a dating coach, because I don't think they often go deep enough. Okay, so it's all well and good saying to somebody, well, yeah, you need to love yourself more, you need to value yourself more, but actually understanding how to do it is the tricky part. And that's why I work with the unconscious, because these things do quite often run deep. It could be one little thing that was said to us as a child that we have unconsciously taken the meaning that I'm not deserving of love from that moment. So the work that I do, we do work with the unconscious and go back very safely to those specific points during childhood, so that you can take away the learning from it, but let go of the emotion and the actual event. But things like that you can get for free, subliminals that you can listen to, nighttime affirmations and hypnosis, meditations, all of these things. And my absolute favorite thing to do is embodying and anchoring. So are you okay if I do just a couple of minutes of this with you?
Sure. Go for it.
Yeah. So if you just close your eyes for a moment, and I'd like you just to take a couple of nice deep breaths there, and just take yourself back to a time when you did feel really loved. Take yourself right back to that time and float right down into your body. And just see what you can see through your eyes, hear what you can hear through your ears, and really feel those feelings of being totally loved. Totally loved, so totally loved. And when that feeling is at its strongest, just anchor it in by pinching your finger and your thumb together. And whenever you begin to feel it fade away, just release. Now I'd like you to see if you can find another time when you felt totally loved, so totally loved. And if not, just use the same time, or even using your imagination to see what it would feel like to feel totally loved, and float right down into your body and see what you can see through your eyes, hear what you can hear through your ears, and really feel into the feeling of being totally loved, so totally loved. Feel the deliciousness of being so totally loved. And when that's at its strongest, just anchor it in. And whenever you begin to feel it fading away, just release and come back to the room. And so that's something that I would really recommend to people, using the power of your memories, your imagination, because the brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality, but it's practicing it, practicing it, practicing it until we really feel safe and secure in feeling loved by, like you say, first of all, by ourselves, before we can actually feel safe being loved by another person.
I love it. Yeah, no, totally understand. I think that's a fabulous thing to do. And I've done some hypnosis and things in the past. So to end, I'd like to know, what's your favorite part? Is it the hypnosis that you love to do with people, or what's your favorite part about what you do with people?
I love a little bit of all of it. I'm really loving the breakthrough breath work at the moment, because people have, they have this huge emotional release sometimes where they're crying, even screaming sometimes. But then at the end, it's like wow, I feel so much lighter. All this stuff I've repressed for so many years, I've been able to let it go in this moment. And it's, you know, helping them. We're always going to have moments that trigger us, but like
Hmm.
learning how to deal with those triggers and actually seeing those triggers as a really good thing. I love when customers come back to me and they're like, oh my God, Caroline, I was triggered by this thing, but I totally seen how it was a reflection of what was going on within me rather than blaming the other person. And it's so powerful to be able to kind of look within and say, okay, rather than me saying, well, they made me feel like this, just
Hmm.
being like, why do I feel like this? Okay, well, I feel like they're telling me they don't want to be with me anymore. Well, that makes me feel, and kind of work through the process so that actually triggers become massive accelerators in our personal growth.
I love it. That's fabulous. So, where can people find you?
So my website is www.carolinesmithmcleanhypnotherapy.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram.
Cool. I will post all those links below,
Thank
so you guys can connect with her. That would be amazing. I love what you teach and what you do. So thank you so much for coming and being a guest. Everybody watching, of course, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And as always, have a fit and fabulous day. Bye for now.